Hi, I'm Jendella Benson. This is Shut Up and Write, your quick fire fiction writing. Kick up the bum that should hopefully get you out of your head and onto the page and get the book that you say you want to write finished. We're nearly at the end of this series, so I'm going to jump into the thing that I spend the most part of my time doing, editing. If you're one of those writers who likes to write a little bit, go back, edit what they've written before they continue, you're wasting your time. I will say it again, you are wasting your time. How are you editing something, trying to make it better when you don't even know what it is you're dealing with yet? The best description that I've ever heard about your first draft is that it is you telling the story to yourself. So it is going to be messy, it's going to be incoherent, it's going to be a steaming hot pile of trash, let's be real. But that's just part of the process. I have heard of writers who allegedly only write one draft and that's it, they're done. I'm not calling them liars, I just don't know how it works because the majority of us are literally typing through tears, heaving, crying, questioning our life choices, wondering why we are doing it to ourselves as we are getting that first draft out. The good news is that that first draft is going to be the worst that your book will ever be. In theory, it's all uphill from there. Once you've got your draft written, I suggest you go away, pat yourself on the back, buy yourself some ice cream, have a little dance, and then come back to it with fresh eyes so that you can look at your draft with a bit of clarity. I've also heard of writers who have this whole editing process where they go back to look specifically at one thing at a time. So they'll do an edit for dialogue, an edit for structure, an edit for something else. That's just not me. I just go back, start from the beginning, and I'm just fixing what jumps out as glaringly obviously wrong as I go along. Honestly, there's names of characters that change halfway through drafts and I'm having to go back. There's glaring potholes that need to be fixed up and filled in. There's all sorts of craziness going on, but that's just par for the course in a first draft. Another thing that I do is that when it gets to a place where I feel like, okay, I've got a handle on this, it's more or less coherent, I start to read it out loud, every single word, because some things just become more obviously crap when you say it out loud into the atmosphere. A question I get asked a lot is, how do you know when your draft is ready to send to third parties to read? And it's kind of like vibes, but seriously, I would say when you have a good handle on what you're trying to do with this book, what your purpose and intention is, then you can start sending it out to third parties to read, and only trusted third parties as well, because the thing is, it's not fully formed yet. Whatever opinions or feedback comes your way can play a big part in shaping the final output. So if you don't really know what your book is about, what your intentions are, these outside voices will have a greater impact on shaping your book than it might do if you had a more coherent vision for yourself. And this is just how I write, okay? I believe in intention, I believe in vision, I believe in clarity. Some people might not feel the same way and they're just like, I'm just putting this out to see if it's good and I want all the feedback possible. And that's completely fine and fair, and that's your process. But to give you an example of what I mean, with Hope and Glory, there's a scene where a character is recounting a racist incident that happens to them, and they're telling it like a joke. They're making it into banter. It's funny. My editor read that scene and said, oh, it will be really powerful and confronting if we actually witness this happening versus this character retelling the story. I pushed back on that and I said, when you experience a horrible racist incident, you can make it funny when you have a bit of distance and you're telling the story to your friends. When you are in that moment, it's not funny. To keep the levity of that scene, I wanted it to be a funny incident that's more a commentary on Peckham rather than this confronting traumatic incident that would ultimately have the characters leaving the scene feeling kind of crap. Because I knew what I wanted to do with that scene, I was able to push back and explain myself, and my editor was like, oh, okay, fair enough, I get what you're saying, and we were able to move on. If you don't have that sort of clarity, everything that someone says could potentially be a good idea that you take on board, and then it could end up confusing your book, could end up taking it away from what you originally wanted it to be. So that's why I'm really kind of precious about guarding your manuscript in its early forms and just going back over it yourself until it's in a place where you feel like, okay, I know what this is. A toddler is no longer a newborn baby. It can go out into the world and hear what the adults have to say about it. No one but myself and God Almighty has ever read a first draft of anything that I've written. Just thinking about someone doing it makes me want to spontaneously combust with embarrassment. If that's how you feel about your first draft, you are on the right track. That is very normal. That first draft will have you questioning your entire life, but the real work is in the editing. I once heard the quote, the real writing is the rewriting. Things get really fun when you have this ugly lump of clay that you are shaping and molding into something quite beautiful. But until you get that ugly lump of clay out, there's not much you can do. And I could give you a prompt here, but if you haven't actually finished your first draft yet, then my prompt to you is go and finish it. We're waiting. If you want more thoughts on the editing process, more examples, and just other bits to do with this series, check out the workbook from my website. Until then, I'm gonna shut up. You're gonna go write.